who will be the player Spurs mould this Ange project around?
I think Romero is so key to Spurs. I think that he doesn't get the respect that he deserves from the kind of wider media and neutrals. People see him as rash. People see him as getting red cards and getting booked, flying into tackles, being reckless. That's not the case with Cristian Romero. It may have been the case at points during his Spurs career, but one red card this season, the same amount as players like Virgil van Dijk. You know, he's composed. He's a cool centre-back. He's one of the best line-breaking passers. He's one of the best progressive centre-backs, you know, in terms of setting up and how we want to play out from the back. He is so key to that. Van der Ven gets all the plaudits, rightly so. Van der Ven is a Rolls Royce. He is excellent, all of those things. But I think we've spoken about this a lot before. Like, a lot of it with Van der Ven, in terms of the praise that he gets, and maybe it's overblown to an extent, is because of the aesthetics and because people are seeing him crunch into these tackles, these incredible recovery runs. Whereas Romero, what he does is more old-fashioned and more... And it's more old-fashioned in a sense of how well he plays up against big centre-backs, and Havertz is a good example of that. We saw how well he dealt with Antonio in the sense that if defenders want to get their back to goal and back into you, Romero is very good at that. He's very good at nipping the ball back just out in front of the defender. He's very good going tight to the man, rarely gives fouls away by doing that. And that then springs Spurs in terms of our ability to counter-attack as well. Romero, how often do you see it? We saw it so many times in the game away at Aston Villa where he steps up to the halfway line. His reading of the game is superb. And against a striker, maybe like a Watkins in that instance, that wants to back into him and wants to roll him, he's there, nips in, someone picks it up from the midfield, and it's a 3-on-2 or a 4-3-3 and we're away. And that could be so important tomorrow in terms of those turnovers. In terms of in the North London derby, those turnovers, you know, are going to be so important. And I think Romero, he will be the key, I think, to whatever good Spurs do in this kind of project under Ange Postecoglou. Like I said, I absolutely love Mickey van der Ven, and it's an incredible partnership. They're so well made for each other. But I think that Van der Ven gets the plaudits in the media that Romero also deserves. But it's natural, it's understandable. Van der Ven is maybe more an impressive player in terms of his highlights reel. Like I said, those recovery runs, those crunching tackles, you know, that the kind of physicality of him as well. Like, he's a bit more of a unique centre-back. We've not really seen someone like him. Obviously, he comes in, he's the fastest player in the league. He's got the fastest sprint ever recorded in Premier League history.
Yeah. And
this isn't me taking anything away from Van der Ven, but I just think Romero is so crucial to us. And I think could be so crucial on Sunday against Arsenal in terms of, like you said, dealing with Havertz, but also being able to make us a better team in terms of counter-attacking Arsenal, turning them over. He's done it so many times throughout the season. There was a graph that came up at some point a few months ago or a few weeks ago that showed expected threat all across the pitch in every single zone, which is basically, you know, for anyone that kind of doesn't really know what that means, think of what XG means in terms of, you know, the chances of scoring a goal in that position if you take that shot 100 times. And obviously expected threat isn't quite as clear cut as something like XG because it doesn't always result in a goal, but it's how much threat essentially each player brings to that zone. Obviously you're going to see wingers naturally higher up the pitch, you're going to see strikers in the box, but Romero was the furthest defender ahead, he was on that graph, on that pitch map, the furthest defender up the pitch, right on the halfway line, in the opposition half. And that just shows you what he does affects games for Spurs. He gets high up the pitch, he reads the games, he gets in the back of strikers, turns the ball over, and Spurs are away. Like I said, Aston Villa was such a good example of that. And I think we can see a lot of that on Sunday. He's captain material as well. I don't understand what people say in terms of people see him as this reckless, rash individual. Why would you make him a vice-captain? Making him a vice-captain has actually been the making of him, really. We've seen Romero be a great defender since he's come to Spurs, under Conte, partly last season as well, not so much. But again, he was kind of almost one of the fall guys in a really struggling team. And yes, he got sent off a few times. People think of that AC Milan game. Yes, he let us down there. But what let us down, what people fail to recognise as much, is the tactics in those games and the way we set up. Romero's red card and his rashness in that moment is just a small part of that. But he's brought such a big part of his game to Spurs this season, has made such a big impact. So I think, like I said, in terms of what good Spurs are going to do, if he is the guy, or if he's not the guy, he will be one of the main cogs in that. And I think he's so important. He doesn't get the credit he deserves at all, in my opinion. He's an excellent centre-back, borderline world-class. He's won a World Cup. We're going to see it again this summer at the Copa America, I think. Shows his class. He's truly excellent. And you can see how much he loves playing for the club as well. It means something to him. It does mean something to him. That he's got that back. I think he was tired under Conte. He was tired of it. You know, there were rumours about him potentially wanting to leave if Conte was to stay. And just come in. And again, it kind of points towards this fact of, like, people were criticising the Ange Postecoglou appointment, saying, how are you going to be able to keep your best players with a manager like that? it's about the principles that lay down. It's not about the name. And if you can get players like Romero who have the potential to go on and play for someone like a Man City, play for Barcelona, play for Real Madrid, in my opinion, if you've got someone like Ange Postecoglou to come in and just unlock that, which I think he really has, you've got such a great defender on your hands. And I think we're going to see a big performance from him on Sunday.
I think he is world class, mate. I genuinely do. When he plays for Argentina, when he has that Argentina shirt on, they don't look like there doesn't look like any defenders that are capable of being better than him. He's ridiculous. But the thing is, he plays in a system right now that exploits and reveals every vulnerability you have. That's why you have to be such an incredible defender. That's why most defenders, the defenders that aren't Van de Ven and Romero in our squad, don't really look like they can cut it. And that I just think you're constantly defending in huge amounts of space around you for attacking players to exploit. You're constantly running back towards your own goal. It's such a difficult thing to do. And Romero, for the most part, same with Van de Ven, they make it look easy. They don't look like they break a sweat doing it. They're so composed. And Romero, he's such a composed defender on the ball. Like you say, we haven't seen a player that can pick a pass like him since Toby Alderweireld, like from defence. He's so good at those sort of defence-breaking passes, or cut it through the lines and through midfield and straight to a Maddison or whoever's holding the ball up front. And that goes under the radar all the time. And yeah, a lot of people have this this perception of him and a preconception of him. But again, it's not true. Like you said, him being the vice captain, he's dealt with that so well, and he's gone up a level in his leadership. And you're thinking about future planning. In 3 years, there probably is a world where Son isn't starting every game. And I can't think of anyone better to be a captain than him. If you're looking at, we need winners, he's a fucking World Cup winner, mate. He was unbelievable against Mbappe in the World Cup final. He didn't he showed his composure in a game like that. He's got it in him, and I think he's 25 now. And this Ange process is a 4-year plan, or hopefully it's more. But right now it's a 4-year plan. That means by the end of it, or hopefully when we're in our pump, he's going to be 28. He's going to be in his prime. He's going to be in his peak. When a defender, especially of his attributes, of reading the game, being that aggressor, 28 is probably his peak. Do you agree? No. I think it probably is, and he's very quick. He's not like flashy fast like Van de Ven. Yeah. He is very quick. He gains that sort of momentum when he runs, and he just charges at people, doesn't he? But again, but he's not going to lose that pace until he's in his mid-30s probably. Again, he doesn't rely on it, so he's just going to get better and better. By the time he's 28, as hopefully captain of Tottenham, he will be leading us to something special. I really believe that. And obviously he'll be 28. I think Van de Ven will be 25, probably the age he is now.
Yeah.
That defence in the next 4 years is going to be so significant for what we're going to go on and achieve, because he is a winner. And he is world class, I believe, and he makes this role look so easy when in reality it's one of the hardest defended roles
that Romero,
in the Premier League.
Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen partnership blossomed over time, and like you said, Van de Ven, 22, 23 years old, Romero 25, going to be 26 this year. There's still so much more to come, and you're looking at that 3 years down the line and how well they can both continue to mature in their own game. Van de Ven, first year in the Premier League, Romero, an experienced player in his own right now, but there's still so much more to come. And the fact that we're seeing this level now, and look, there's a misconception, I think, around Spurs' defence a little bit, in terms of obviously people will look at our defence and see that we're conceding a lot of goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite often it's because those centre-backs are vulnerable and they're exposed. And I say they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable because they are exposed. You know, we saw that with Van de Ven against Newcastle. He might have got turned into a meme. He was unfortunate on that day. In terms of those slips, it was unlucky, and that's what happens when you put under immense pressure in those moments, because you can't keep the ball further up the pitch. And I think once we do get that proper, maybe number 6 in front of them, and that striker that can really retain that ball in the final third and bring the other players into play more than maybe Son Heung-Min is doing now, because that's not his game, then I think that elevates the defence as well to an extent where they're not under that much pressure all the time. They're not kind of having to make up for other failings on other areas of the pitch. There's so much spotlight on them. And I think they both get unfairly criticised because of the amount of goals that Spurs have conceded. If you looked at Romero and Van de Ven, especially because of the Newcastle game, other than the Newcastle game, how many games could you count where they've had bad games individually or bad games together? It's very, very minimal. which is odd and kind of but almost like paradoxical for like a team that's conceded, I think, 50 goals in the Premier League. But so have Aston Villa. But because of the manner in which the way that Spurs are conceding the goals, in terms of those transitions, looking that little bit more open than Villa, it looks and it feels worse. But for me, Romero and Van de Ven aren't part of that problem. They're really, really not. They're such an exciting partnership. And Romero, I think, they are both the key to what Spurs are going to do. They are two fundamentals of what Spurs are going to achieve. But I think Romero, just for me, like with his experience and how well he's going to continue to blossom, I think, like I said, I think there is an argument to say he is world class. I think he is. But other people maybe not see it that way.
I think he gets lost as well in the sort of when you're looking at the best players in our team. He definitely does get lost, and there was moments from like last season he was becoming a bit of a scapegoat, and I just think he's so integral to the way we play, and he's going to be, like you say, that experience he's going to hold in the next few years. He's going to be a beast, an absolute beast. So vital for us.